Okay, we're going to go over the comma placement homework that you had to complete for today. You can see in the first section, in section 13.2, it talks about when to put commas in a series. Also, use a comma to separate two or more adjectives that modify the same noun. So we see that here. These two adjectives are both before this noun, so you would separate them with a comma. Okay, so we talk about series, we talk about separating two adjectives before a noun. Let's look at some of the examples. So it can be called the Midwest, the breadbasket, the Middle West, or the Heartland. So this is the series, as we see up here. So when you have nouns in a series like this, Midwest, the breadbasket, the Middle West, these are all separate entities. You want to separate them with commas. People think of the Midwest as endless amber fields of grain. That is this example here. You have two adjectives modifying the noun fields, so you want to separate them with a comma. Other examples here from exercise 3. We can see the same example here, two adjectives before a noun. This one doesn't need any commas. You can see there's only one adjective before this noun, so it doesn't need a comma. There's only one adjective. But here we see this again. Same example, two adjectives modifying a noun, so we want to separate them with a comma. Here we see the series, tornado, hailstorm, blizzard. These are all different nouns, okay, so they need to be separated with commas. Same concept here. Same concept here. Here we go back to the nouns. I'm sorry, the adjectives being separated with commas. Notice here there are three adjectives before the noun space: vast, endless, and open. So you'd want to put commas here, and then you can leave this last adjective without a comma next to the noun. Okay, and then we here see the additional example of commas in a series. Okay, the next lesson, 13.3, was about putting a comma before a phrase that begins a sentence, like an introductory phrase that begins a sentence. Okay, and we can see in the exercise 5, you were supposed to add in some sort of introductory phrase before each sentence and then separate it off with a comma. You can see here I've done that for each sentence. Okay, each sentence starts off with this introductory phrase that you then need to separate out with a comma. Okay, so you can pause the video now to take a look at my examples and then compare them to yours from exercise 5. Okay, hopefully you've unpaused at this point. So now let's go to the last lesson, 13.4. Okay, now this one talks about using commas to set off a noun of direct address, like the example they give, Abraham, comma, please recite the Gettysburg Address. Use commas to set off non-essential appositive phrases. Now, if you're unsure what an appositive phrase is, I found this definition, which I think does a good job. An appositive is a noun or a pronoun, often with modifiers, set beside another noun or pronoun to explain or identify it. So you can see here the noun or pronoun is in blue, and the appositive is in red. Okay, so these two examples are really good. My brother's car, a sporty red convertible with bucket seats, is the envy of my friends. So basically the appositive phrase is just adding in additional information, more specific information about this noun here. It's not necessary in the sentence. If I were to get rid of this red phrase and just add my brother's car is the envy of my friends, I would still have a complete sentence. But a lot of people add in the appositives because they want more information to be provided about that noun. Here we see the chief's surgeon, comma, and the appositive phrase, and then another comma, took her nephew on a hospital tour. Again, we don't need this phrase. We can get rid of it. It's still a complete sentence. But the appositive phrase adds in more information that makes the sentence more specific. Okay, so let's look at the examples here. Okay, so the first inaugural address that Lincoln gave, there is no need for commas here. But here we see that appositive, right, that comes before the noun. It needs to be separated out with commas. Just think of it as it's adding in additional information to a certain noun. What's the additional information here? It's that Lincoln was the one who confronted secession. Lincoln, who confronted secession, was our 16th president. So this phrase is set off with commas. Okay, same here. Lincoln deployed the militia, which numbered 75,000 men, to uphold the Union. This appositive phrase here is giving us more information about this noun here, militia. Okay, here's the example they give of having an introductory word, incidentally, and then you have the rest of your sentence. Here again, we see the noun and then the appositive phrase that comes after it gives more information, so we set it off with commas. Here's where there's little phrases like, they're called parenthetical expressions, like a transitional word, like in fact, and we see that here. Lincoln said that, in fact, the dead did not die in vain. This little phrase here, this little transitional phrase gets set off with commas. Here again, we see a noun and then additional information about that noun set off with commas. Again, we see this isn't essential. If we were to get rid of this and just had Miss Lydia Bixby lost 2 sons in the war, it's a complete sentence. But a lot of times people add in appositive phrases because they want more information to be put out there about that noun. Okay, this one is correct. This one, same concept. Again, we have our noun, and then we have the additional information set off with commas. And then this last sentence doesn't need any commas. Okay, so that is the lesson on commas. Please compare everything that is in this video with your own work that you did for homework.